Yeah.
Freezing all the time.
Naomi Stefan
No,
is up
like, we're
She
both
was
like
last
very
year,
hot
but we
blooded.
can't
so
find
like,
that we brought you anything.
to appoint.
we get really hot.
So that's why we want to get like, once we have time, we'll have a calendar of like
Like we have not turned our
reminders,
heat on yet.
September,
We have not
reminders,
turned our heat
June.
on. And we had our,
Mine
She
gets-
she's attended two.
and we had our windows
Yeah,
open.
she's been there.
Yeah, so she's
Okay,
still
so
on.
she's-
Don't think you voted.
She's automatically renewed.
She's
Kind
She
of.
was an
I
automatic.
wake up
That's
and
good.
I'm breathing.
I'm like, oh no, she's been like,
So
I
we
checked the
probably to
calendar.
memorialize it should just
Medicine.
Yep.
fess up and
Yeah, I guess if you want.
have her in this
Like
one.
growing up, I had to take like Clary every
when you
day, and like I had Flonase.
I have Flonase and
Um,
asthma pill at night. I have 2 inhalers.
Really?
had a bit of swapping
I'm
around the
correct.
deadlines recently, so.
Good. That was my reminder for you. Good. 6 bells.
My aunt
It's
says
time.
that. I love that.
6 bells.
It's time.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday, October 9th, 2023 Cascade City Council meeting. We'll have a call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Kelchin.
Here.
Roush.
Here.
Hush.
Here.
Delaney.
Here.
Oliphant.
Here.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Kelchin,
Second.
second by Roush. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person on agenda items and local government issues.
Just a question. Does anybody on council, not including Lisa, not including the mayor, know how the dog park got moved from centrally located, perfect spot, I would say, down at the sewer plant to Oak Hill?
Yes, because of not being able to change fences, because we're in that floodway down there, and we'd have to go through an Army Corps of Engineers debacle in order to move, change any fencing, to do anything, because that is in the floodway.
Well, I don't understand how the DNR can allow you to put a huge swimming pool with no mitigation across the street from me and object to a dog park, which is essentially fenced that water can flow through. I mean, this seems like a bit of a contradiction in terms.
And
Thank you. Anybody else? Number 6, consent agenda. Minutes, City Council 9/25/23, Library Board 10/3/23, Board of Adjustment 8/23/23 and 8/30/23, liquor license annual renewal for 2 Gingers, October 9th, 2023 claims, and September 2023 reports. Is there any questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I need a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Hush, roll call.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Kelchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Number 7, consideration of mayoral appointments to Planning and Zoning Commission for 2023 to 2026.
So we have 3 people that are up, their terms are up as of the end of September, and that's Jeff Otting, Jim Conlon, and Bob Moriarty. And then we cannot find, Naomi Stefan was also up last year, and we don't see that the council took action on that, so although she's been active on the planning, there's only been a few planning and zoning meetings. I believe the mayor's talked to all but one, and I've never gotten any indication that the 4th one is interested in stepping down, so I would guess, Mayor, are you recommending all 4
I'd
remain
recommend
on?
all 4.
Okay, so it's again Naomi Stefan, Jeff Otting, Jim Conlon, and Bob Moriarty for the council's consideration.
If there's no question, I need a motion on the appointments.
I have a question. So like, is there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
It's 6, and we have a vacancy. We advertise, and we haven't found anybody.
Why
that's
is it?
interested.
Why is planning and zoning so much bigger than any other?
It's usually run by state code.
Gotcha. Okay.
I need a motion on the appointments.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointments.
Motion by Roush.
Second.
Second by
I
Delaney.
do have a quick question, though. At that point, we'll have 4 people coming do it all at the same time.
No, we'll have Naomi go from last year. We'll have her expire.
Okay, so,
That'd stagger that.
It's a 3-year term, so if she had been voted on last year, she would have been up in '25. And then these 3 that are Jeff, Jim, and Bob, they will expire in '26.
I didn't want 4 people to come up
All at
all at the
once.
same time.
Nope, there's 2 more that'll come up next year. And then if we find someone to take the vacant term, they would be on the same timeline as Naomi. So it's 2, 2, and 3, since
Okay,
you have a
that's
3-year
fine.
term.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 8, consideration of resolution number 74-23, setting a public hearing for October 23, 2023, to approve library construction plans and authorize invitations to bid.
As everyone knows, due to the prices that came in on the September bid opening, we rejected all those bids at the last meeting. We are working, and we can talk about that again, and then we'll talk about it at the next few meetings. But in order to get the ball rolling, we have to have an ad in the paper advertising a public hearing to go over the new plans at the next meeting. So all this is doing right now is setting that public hearing date, which the resolution's on page 29, and then the hearing notice that would go in the paper this week is on page 30.
Is there any questions about this?
Are all the previous timelines still
In place?
in place? Other than like through
For the
bidding
bidding.
essentially?
Yeah. So if you remember, we were saying officially they could start in October if we had approved the last set of bids. And then really, we set the timeline so that if someone didn't want to start until spring, that they had a full year. So that's still in line with what we need. I had asked Mike Beck if he thought that there was any advantage in the price points that we would get if we would give anybody into a little further into spring or summer of '25. He suggested that we leave it as is, that's enough time. Did you get any information, Mike, from?
No,
Okay.
nothing that would change that.
So, yeah, so all it does is eliminate those first extra months, but if we get this approved in December, that would still also give them, kind of pre-ordering time to get things in stock prior to being able to start in the spring. So, that's our hope.
Any other questions? If none, I need a motion on resolution number 74-23.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 7423.
Motion by Kelchen.
Second.
Second by Oliphant. Roll call.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Kelchen.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Number 9, consideration of resolution number 73-23, setting date for public hearing on designation of the expanded Cascade Urban Renewal Area and on urban renewal plan amendment.
So we talked about this a few months ago, adding a couple of things to the urban renewal plan. Those included being able to charge some of the debt for Highway 136 to the TIF, Ross Orr's reconstruction project at 109 First Avenue West. We've also added, Nick Callahan and his wife Jeanette have applied for an amount for the industrial building that they just put up. And then you'll recall that the council had approved upgrading that sewer on Buchanan Street at the intersection of Third. And that was only about $20,000, but that would allow the council to reimburse ourselves for that as TIF funds permit. And then the last thing you'll recall was in our 2024 budget, we had authorized that a portion of the administrator, clerk, and director of community and business promotion also be charged to TIF. So those all need to be in a plan amendment. There are no parcels that actually need to be added except for the right-of-ways, and so we have some streets in the urban renewal plan right now. And then we obviously have to add Highway 136, so it's actually just as easy, because there's no tax value anyway, to just add all streets. So when we see this urban renewal plan, it'll be all streets. So if you ever were to add a street project or have to do anything, that you don't need to actually go through amending that. So this, again, strictly sets the public hearing date. In the packet, you would be approving the resolution. And then on page 34, is the notice that would go in the paper. That would go in on November 1st. It has to be 4 to 20 days before the hearing. That hearing would be the first meeting in November on the 13th. And then you'll go through that process of considering the actual project amounts, and you can see that we have the draft of the urban plan, urban renewal plan amendment to the plan, so it outlines the different projects that I just mentioned, puts a maximum dollar amount on any terms that we are considering. So again, tonight's action is strictly setting the public hearing date.
If there's no other concerns, I need a motion, resolution number 73-23.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Delaney,
Second.
second by Roush, roll call.
Calhoun.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 10, consideration of for resolution number 75-23, approval to proceed with dog park fencing.
So I've tried numerous times to get more than one quote, and the quote that we did receive was from Hires. And if we were to do up to $20,000, it's 19 and change. I tried to get quotes from Noonan Fencing and Hawkeye, and I think they're just too busy. I've actually talked to them, but asked them about 3 or 4 times to get us something, and they just don't have time. So we had originally intended that after we find out this week if we receive the grant or not, that we would proceed. If we receive the grant, we'll be doing extras beyond the fence. If we don't receive the grant, then the intent was to stick more with just the fence. Guys are gonna put a small water line in just off the pipe that comes from the water tower so that there's water, kind of figuring out what that'll look like. And then, if you recall, we had an Eagle Scout that showed interest in putting a little park bench, or not park bench, picnic table with a little roof over it. And then tomorrow, when the DNR is here, we'll be planting 3 trees. So in order to keep going before we have frost, the authorization would be adding to this resolution up to $20,000 and then inserting Hires. Because I didn't put that in the packet until I knew if anybody else had submitted a quote.
Lisa, what happens if the grant is, could you repeat that? If the grant is not,
We're still going to proceed with the fence either way, because that's what you have to have for a place for the dogs to come. And then that's the $20,000. The park board had allocated those funds from their allocation of funds that you give them. And then if we received 20 from the state, you have to spend another 10, so you have to spend 30. And then they could just choose to spend the 20 only for the fence. Because it's a matching grant if we get the grant.
okay, the reason not to wait till spring is,
Because this is the priority of the park board that they've been talking about last year, and they asked to do it this fall.
is there going to be that much use during the wintertime, I wonder?
I actually do think that there will be quite a bit of use during the winter.
More in the winter because you can't take your dog on a walk. Like, it's hard to take the dog on a walk, but it's easy to sit there and put the dog in the fence and let it run around. You can stay sitting in your car.
And then we're not dealing with the other stuff that we have to do in spring or when they're all busy and trying to get everybody else's projects done. And we don't have to worry about soggy spring frost thawing out and if we have rain and stuff. So either way, it comes out of the same fiscal year.
Yeah, if there's no other question, I need a motion on resolution number 75-23.
I'll make a motion on 75-23.
Motion by Oliphant,
I'll second.
second by Roush, roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Yay.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Calhoun.
Aye.
Number 11, discussion on health insurance agent of record.
So before I meet with some of these people that have expressed interest, I just want to make sure, like, I don't see that anybody had a connection to Gallagher. That's who our current person is. It's not really a matter of, like, if you go and talk to these people, you don't get a different price because you're not negotiating with the actual agents. They just have that factored into your Blue Cross rates. And then based on the plan that you have through Blue Cross, the agent of record that we establish just gets a certain percent. It's like 2 or 3%. But sometimes it's about the services that they can provide, their ability to kind of look at other options for us. And we've had some local people and other people that I've worked with in the past, you know, they come in a lot. I don't subscribe to just doing it willy-nilly, but these people have been our agent for a long time, and we would obviously invite them to come as well and just talk to us about their services. So before I go through that process, I just want to make sure no one's opposed.
I don't think I'm opposed, but I just want to make sure, like, I know people get set in, if we provide a certain insurance, and then that there's certain doctors that they've been to for years are covered.
Yeah, this
or
is
that
not
this
Blue Cross
moving
switching.
that.
This is
Okay.
agent of record.
Got it. Thank you.
So like when we have EMC, but it was Lori O'Brien's office, so that's like the Lori person, but not this insurance, that's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
But we have Gallagher out of Cedar Rapids. So either way, it's we call it a grandmothered plan, that's Blue Cross. Like, we already got our rate increase, we're staying with them, nobody's changing doctors, it's just who's helping us with that process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone like in Cascade that represents?
I'm not sure. I believe there may be. You know, sometimes people will come forward that do mostly liability, like you sent me somebody that was for liability. And sometimes it's just, you know, like there's been a person here that I worked with down in the Quad Cities, that their office is in Cedar Rapids, so they'd like a chance, and I had a good experience with them, so there's nothing really bad about, but sometimes I think it's just like auditors, you want to keep everybody on their toes and not just get complacent. So I'll bring it back. I just didn't want to go through that process. If somebody had some, let's not even consider it. Is anybody opposed to
Nope.
conversation? Okay. No action needed.
Number 12, discussion on mural ribbon cutting on and swag items, which is shirts, glasses, posters, etc.
So do you have the artwork, Mike? Yeah. Okay, so as we went through the process with the mural, you'll recall that we have talked about before, put the word one, I guess, first, maybe. Do the other one.
Oh, the other one.
Sorry. So that's called, the thing that's actually on the wall is called postcard art. And that's intended to like go on a t-shirt, have actual postcards, maybe get some kind of like wooden placard things that people could get. People have talked about stickers, Klingons, maybe some pint glasses that we could have at like the tap room where they come and get beer and are interested in those glasses. So one idea obviously is promoting it locally by having our online store like a lot of schools do and everything else, where you maybe just throw them out there a couple times a year. And then there's no, like, that's just a pass-through to, say we do it all at Cascade Customs. But if the intent is to promote our community to people who come here and have opportunities to stop and maybe they're visiting, like, that doesn't get at the heart of promoting our community. So we do need to have some seed, if the council is supportive of doing that, we would need to have some seed money to be able to purchase those, and then obviously we're getting the money back as they sell and we can consider additional orders. And kind of thinking about where are the good places to sell those items so that they go along with what people are looking for. So obviously like Hollow Tree, maybe what the tap room has is just the pint glasses. Talking about like maybe the t-shirts are at Cascade Customs, and then at Eloise Ray, you know, where people are looking for clothing, things like that, and then be able to send people around, and we could obviously have a sample of things here as well. So we'd like to do that, but number one, we just need to have approval of the council to be able to have some seed money for that. And then secondly, the intent versus just going into the general fund, when we had this conversation with Ben, the muralist, was he was willing to donate the second piece of art at no additional cost to us, where you normally get one design. And he talked about that maybe this was a good opportunity to have a second or future opportunities for public art, whether that's paintings and murals or some sort of art in our parks, could be like in an open space downtown, things like that. And so that's where these pieces of art on here are really a conglomeration in one mural of all the pictures that are behind the letters, but you see them in a different way. And so I can envision like people being willing to purchase, and this would be an 18 by 24, we'd make it a standard size poster type artwork. He would autograph like on a nicer piece of paper the first 100, and then we'd have like a cheaper version that would be just like poster paper. And again, sell those, like maybe those go to places like Annie's or, you know, like that Joyce is willing to sell those at places like that. And I see there being a niche for that kind of stuff, that maybe somebody puts like in their, you know, game room or, you know, just someplace off in their house, whatever. And so there was no additional cost to that, but he did say like, this would be, you know, I'm not charging you, but it would be great. And that kind of led us to that these funds, instead of just funding the general fund, could stay in a separate, at least from an accounting perspective, is keep the proceeds separate for a future project. So anything that we make off the swag items, these things. And then that led to, instead of having people drive here from Des Moines for a 5-minute ribbon cutting, to kind of make it into a small community lunch event. And just like the bank will do grilling for charities, or FFA does their lunch, that we would have the city employees grill. If any of you are available, that'd be great. And then we could advertise it to the business people, be willing to deliver their lunches, and then again, any proceeds that come from that lunch. And then it's just a little bit more community building opportunity, not just come snip a ribbon and see ya. So is anybody opposed to the lunch idea? Any thoughts on the swag? Like, are people supportive? You know, that was again kind of the
It's a good
intent
idea.
of promoting Cascade.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yep. Looks good.
So Cascade Customs wasn't able to get the price to me today, but, you know, we'll be reasonable about the purchases that we make. And again, minus having inventory, the money will all come back. So at the end of the day, we're really not spending taxpayers' money on it. We're just using those as starting funds. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
All right, thank you.
Number 13, consideration of resolution number 76-23, contract amendment for FEH Design for rebid of library.
So I gave you the information. I have had these conversations with FEH. They know that it's very frustrating. I don't know what choice we really have. So in your packet is the email from them explaining that this would be amendment number 3, that unfortunately, because of the cost of everything, that, you know, there is additional cost for these engineers to go back and change it. While I feel like they should have done a better job on being more in tune with the world of bidding right now. When I was at my league conference and talking to other people in the field, like, everything is goofy right now with prices coming in. So the resolution on page 48 explains that it would be the amount of $37,195. On page 49, which is the actual amendment, they spell out 3 line items for civil engineering, 1 for HVAC changes, 1 for electrical, structural, interior design, and then a bunch of miscellaneous architectural things, and then the actual rebidding and doing that paperwork. So that should have come to $44,195, and FEH did state that they would give us a decrease, what they called an in-kind credit of $7,000 of that, to make it a total of $37,195. The updated timeline is in your packet, which again shows still having the completion of the building in April of '25. On page 51, you have a list of the things that we are changing, and those we would go over in more detail at that public hearing in 2 weeks. And then finally, I thought it was important to look back at the contract that was signed with the city in 2021, again, because it is a struggle to understand why, when we feel like we're hiring these people, to get that estimate calculated correctly. But there is a section in here that says, basically, that if you want to make changes like this, when the costs have exceeded the estimate, that you are expected as an owner to pay the architect to modify the documents. So hopefully that $7,000 is at least an effort, you know, to have attorneys review everything and try to pursue it. As it says in the email, all that's going to do is delay it further. I know I had one person come in and say, you know, why aren't we starting with somebody else? And that's not going to be fiscally responsible either, to start over, because we're not going to hire somebody for $37,000 to start.
Over.
So while it's, I guess, the cost of this world of doing business, it is frustrating, and I've expressed that more than once, but I don't know what other choice we have than to continue on and get going so that we can get this bid prior to the winter and have time. So.
I guess my question is, do we need to try to cut more to make sure we come under and don't have to spend another $37,000 to rebid
redo.
again?
Yeah, I feel like, first of all, like, so you have like the $1.1 million list on here.
Yeah.
And Mike has been at all of our meetings, and he feels like that number, like, and that's him saying it. Like, he feels like that number is conservative, meaning he thinks that we'll get more than that. And then, and I get your point, but if we cut it, so remember that when we started this, if we really do, let's just say come in at 2.7, we have the ability to negotiate in good faith at a 10% amount. So anything that we get, we can still stay with that lowest contractor, and then they call it value engineering, to be able to make some adjustments if we have to, let's just say if it was 2.7, you're at 270,000. Or if it's, obviously it would be higher than that, if it was 2.9, you would have the ability to legally, and it's not ever legal or illegal, it's really just the interpretation of the other bidders if you're stepping over a line that they feel like is unfair. So let's just say it came at 2.9, you would have the right to go all the way down to 2.6. And so, I mean, this is pretty significant changes. Like the roof is completely different, it doesn't look like the same building.
No.
It's not, they don't consider it a flat roof, but it's slightly pitched so that there's drainage and stuff. So there's that. The building's been lowered. We, there's just a lot of changes. Obviously, that geothermal for the heat is completely different. There were things that were like lighted baffles up in the ceiling that were really expensive. Ceiling fans went from kind of regular, or from commercial, pretty expensive ones to more
High-end residential.
yeah, high-end residential. It was a regular pitched roof. It's now a monoslope. So a lot of those trusses and things like that will be a lot cheaper. So more than taking the word of FEH, is Mike, based on the real numbers that he had in that bid, feels like we are going to be where we need to be.
Economically, though, is this gonna, like, efficiently perform as well as the other one was?
So one of the
Because we
things,
can't-
like
I'm worried about
the long-term costs.
operating expenses.
So one of the changes that we made for the good to like address things like that is, I'm not good at this, but what's the thing when you have the roof?
The
Insulation went from like a 30, whatever, to 50?
The hard insulation that they put under
R
the
value, yeah,
membrane.
yeah.
That
So
was
it was at-
boosted by about 10.
Yeah, so
Of
even
an
though
R
some
value.
of those changes were made, they also tried to make changes that would address that kind of stuff. So,
In the end, I guess personally, I would think FEH would have a better finger on the pulse of what other jobs were being,
I mean, they got,
Bid.
yeah, they got the actual, so like,
You
you
know.
know, they only needed to submit one line item in their bids, like it just said 3.8 million. There's no gory details when you do a building like there is with street work. But they received from one of the bidders, it wasn't Mike, but one of the other bidders, they got every single line item from them so that they feel like they have a better handle on each individual thing that they were overpaying, that we were overpaying for. So I mean, there's no guarantee, but and I feel like you're getting into a time where people are more hungry. You know, like people are still in the middle of construction in August and September than they are in November. So I hope that that helps us. So, and there are a few of these that are alternates. So even if they come in, there will be some things that aren't automatic, even with this estimate. So I think we're okay. But we won't be redesigning it. It's not, it can't be like, there's way too many changes for that to happen.
By alternate, you're talking about optional, or?
So basically, like, you could say, like, there were alternates before, like the geothermal had two options, and then you call it alternate one. And then the little awning that goes over the east patio was alternate two. And then the third alternate before was the base bid called for asphalt in the parking lot, and then we called out for what would be the alternate for concrete. So you call it out as an alternate, which means that when you're bidding, you give us a base price, And then you say alternate 1 is this add or subtract, alternate 2 is add or subtract. So then, even though it's something you want, it's sort of ahead of time saying that this may not happen and don't factor it into your base bid. So that's how they work now.
Just a question, before we select any of those alternates, is there any way to see what our interior, like the furniture and the shelving's gonna run, to know if we can afford those alternates? Because if we've botched the bid this bad, and we have this fictitious figure of what the furniture should cost, I don't wanna botch that and be scrambling to figure out how to do interior finishes. I'd rather have it finished the way we want than have some of those alternates that we talked about,
Right.
so that we can try to stay.
I would think that there would be the ability, well, first of all, you can't, like, they basically say, like, unless you're ready to deliver the furniture changes so much of like what they have and don't have, that like you can't bid it now, because unless you have a place to like store it all and like get it delivered right now, it changes so much. So they basically say like once you start building is when you can start speccing out furniture. So I think that especially like on the, say like the awning was one that we picked, or even the parking lot, that's not really an alternate anymore though, we're just going with asphalt. But something like that exterior, you probably could wait a little bit and then do it as a change order, once you know.
And I think that might be the safer route, like that awning, because I don't remember what that awning was.
Yeah,
Somebody's bid
it was like 20,000.
Yeah.
20,000, but 20,000 could
Do a lot on the
help
inside.
us get something on the inside.
Yep.
Because it'd be better to have the inside finished properly than have an awning on the
Yeah.
outside. And I don't want it to be a, oh crap moment, we should have done
Yeah.
that.
So like another thing, remember, that we did was, that I have them doing in here, is that street work on Pierce is one of the, it's considered an alternate mostly, like I'm hoping that we're doing it, but mostly so that we truly know what that cost is, and then maybe we take some of our street money. And, we always allocate like $50,000 for stormwater, and a big portion of that was that we needed to upgrade those storm sewers anyway. So it's not necessarily the library's fault, like they were undersized, and the mayor had been, with all due respect, bringing it up numerous times, and then we said, like, we just gotta wait until we know what the library's needs are. So you were asking for us to do that long before we knew.
For a while.
Yes. So things like that, like, may also, like, there'll be an alternate, so we have a tag to the price, but then we can look at a separate pot. That's kind of the only thing that's really a separate pot, but I don't know that it's fair to take fundraisers and grants, money and stuff like that for an issue that really was there before, and so that might be an option as well. So I think we're okay, but FEH will be here next time, and I'll make sure that we let them know that you have those questions to kind of address that in 2 weeks.
And I know I asked him about it to
Yeah.
make sure his number was good, and he thought it was, but I wanna,
We thought it was before. Right?
yeah, wanna make sure it is. I don't trust him.
I know, I get it.
Any other questions? If none, I need a motion on resolution number 76-23.
I'll make a motion on resolution 76-23.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney, roll call.
Hush,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Calchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Thank you. Before reports, I'd like to congratulate everybody that worked so hard for Sunset Street Market. That was awesome, other than you can't change the weather. But thank you to everybody that was involved in that. That's a absolutely great event. Reports, Fred.
I don't have anything other than what was presented. Anybody questions?
Nope. Thank you. Library Design Committee, that's it.
You have everything from before you.
And you have anything, Lisa?
Couple updates. Andy had asked about this morning, but the sweeper has been, we thought that we would have had the sweeper a couple of months ago. But just like the rest of the world and everything being delayed, the city that we were purchasing the sweeper from in Minnesota wasn't going to give up the sweeper until they had their new one. So it's finally like about to be delivered. And then once they have theirs, then the one that we're purchasing will get shipped to their Wisconsin facility through McQueen. And they'll do the once over that they promised us and tune everything up and give us some new brooms and things like that. So hopefully sooner than later we'll be getting it.
Is that price still the same, being that it's?
Well, so we didn't want to bring it up until we see like when we actually get it and then ask for what additional hours were spent. I mean,
For an adjustment.
maybe it was a backup and it sat there, I don't know,
Yeah.
but we have to see. So we will definitely be asking before we pay. We have not paid anything.
Good.
Next item is, I think I emailed it to everybody or it's been on Facebook, but Goodwill is going to be bringing a truck here for anyone in the community that would like to give donated items. It'll be parked here at City Hall on Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there'll be a person manning the truck, and so that'll be nice. So get your stuff cleaned out. We thought that'd be ahead of, then if you really can't take it to Goodwill, then the following Saturday on the 21st, you can leave your junk out for Republic to pick up. And if you have items that are for Republic that are appliance in nature, remember that you have to stop in at City Hall and get a sticker, any kind of e-waste or appliances. So, and on the flyer for Goodwill, it does list the kinds of things that they take, and then there's a short list of things they won't take. You'll remember that we got the DNR tree planting grant. The DNR rep will be here tomorrow at 1 p.m. and both public school 6th grade classes will be joining the planting we'll start at 1 o'clock out at the Oak Hill, we're planting the 5 trees that'll go out there to the south and east of where the playground equipment's gonna go. So if anybody's available and wants to stop out, you can learn about planting trees with 6th graders. I went and met with their class today. And we talked about emerald ash borer disease and why the DNR is giving out those funds and watched the required 5-minute video on how to properly plant a tree. So we'll be meeting out there tomorrow. Reminder that on the last weekend of October, we'll have another meeting before them, but that's all the Halloween events with Trick or Treat, the parade, and the dance for the fire department. If you've been over by the pool, you'll see that all of the concrete work is done over there. So if you drive past there, you'll recall that we extended the parking. It's a lot more parking, like at least concrete parking, which will be advantageous for those parking there. And then it is milled, and that was done on Friday. And then they did a little bit more work, and that will be asphalted most likely tomorrow. We believe that Copper will be here from River City. And they also have a couple patches to do, and then they'll also be doing the patchwork for the utilities at the same time. And then we met with Tuba, and as you drive into their parking lot between the 2 pillars, the Legion is going to do from basically, if you drive down there, you'll see that we'll stop right at the edge of the right-of-way, and then their asphalt will go into the back side of the curb. That'll be the sidewalk that you would continue walking from where the sidewalk ends right now by the pool. And then you can walk on the sidewalk all the way to those pillars in front of the cars. And so that was a good collaboration with them to be able to do that. We're still working on Highway 136 with Jake and Cody from MSA. It's our intent to still let that in January. We're kind of waiting on some final approvals from the DOT, and have also been working with our financial advisors on figuring out the debt that we'll obviously need for that project and whatever our portion of the library is. So what we discussed was waiting until we know that we have the library bids in December, and hopefully the January, we'll get the prices for 136 and then actually know what our commitment is for both. And then finally, I think before the last meeting, we talked about the banners being up and the lovely billboard that we have out there that everybody's been waiting for, I think, 6 months to get up. We are hoping that the yucky one on the west side of town will be installed tomorrow.
Oh, exciting.
So we're hoping.
I drove by that the other day and I was like,
Is that getting
Nothing
done?
changed?
It'll look a slightly different kind of setup, but the basic way it looks is like the banners.
No.
Great.
So they'll do that one, and then I met with, I believe it was Dan Kurt, rents the land that the Kramers, was it Kramers?
Mhm.
Joyce Kramer and Mike, they own the land where the other one is on the east end of town, which is not in poor condition, so we asked them to prioritize the other one. And they thought it would be 2 more weeks until they get the corn off the crops there,
Mhm.
so that they can get their trucks in, and then they would both be matching.
Good.
And I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's nothing else, we have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person and only items on this agenda. Seeing none, I need a motion for adjournment.
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kelchin,
Second?
second by Oliphant. All in favor?
Aye.